Hey boss, just got the Halloween set done. Pumpkins, am I right? It's February? Yep, it's February to you too. Alright, see you Monday.
Good afternoon, jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-Minute Testing. Here it is. How many times have I sat in this chair and lamented the lack of retrains for Pumpking and his friends? Well, Joe, we did it. The King of Ghosts is here, and his deck is just as janky as I need it to be. Presenting Pumpking.
Spookly, spookly, watch your webs and you'll see Halloween is fun for pumpkins.
So here's the list. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Despite what some Yu-Gi-Tubers who shall not be named would have you believe, the TCG is alive and well. And if you're looking to start your journey into paper, there's no better place to begin than Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. With up-to-the-minute reporting on every major tournament worldwide, searchable and interactable pie charts and deck lists, and all the bells and whistles you've come to expect from one of the best draft and collection management sites on the net, Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is the place to be. Check it out today at www.ygoprodeck.com. Now back to the video. With that, let's press on with Pumpking. Pumpking, the King of Ghosts, was a bad card from early DM. One of many bosses, played by some jobber, he just sort of showed up, did nothing, and was discarded like so many Halloween pumpkins in February. Don't judge me, I've been busy. Despite this, his proximity to DM meant that eventually he was going to be retrained, and lo and behold, we're here. Debuting in Maze of the Muertos is David S. Pumpking and a gang of other literally who's from early Yu-Gi-Oh! Zombie history. But time moves on beyond the dead. In the years since Pumpking was picked, zombies have evolved to heights you wouldn't believe. These days, the average zombie deck looks like an EDH list, full of one-ofs with Baylor Drock in the command zone. While I do want to stress that the Pumpkin King can be played in a deck like that, I'm trying him somewhere else. This deck aims to make use of his intended game plan, setting up a Call of the Haunted and triggering it about a dozen times on your opponent's turn. Of course, courtesy of a TCG exclusive free agent, the deck's real strength comes from the sideboard, where you can summon, well, basically the floodgate of your choice. Oh joy. So with that, let's get into the card by card. First up, the Pumpkin King himself, Pumpking, the King of Grave Ghosts. You can reveal this card in your hand to set a Call of the Haunted from your deck or graveyard. If you do, discard a card, and that card can be activated this turn. If special summoned, you can special summon a level 6 zombie monster from your deck, except one with 1950 attack, and you are locked from the hand or graveyard for the rest of the turn, except for zombies. We're playing 3 copies of Stare of the Snake Hair, who can be discarded to add a call or a spell trap that mentions it from your deck to your hand, and if special summoned, it can target an attack position monster and opponent controls. It can't attack, its effects are negated, it can't be used as material for an extra deck summon. Finally, our last new monster is Army of the Haunted, which, if you control Call of the Haunted and this card is in your hand or graveyard, can be special summoned. If sent to the graveyard, you can target a Call of the Haunted in your graveyard and set it. We have our starter, the normal summon Samurai Skull. When this card is normal, you can send a zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if this leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can special summon a level 4 zombie monster from your deck, except himself. We're playing 1 Xiangxi the Spirit Owl, the honorary pumpkin piece of support, 6-star zombie effect monster, who during your main phase can send a zombie from your hand or deck to the graveyard, and if banished, can banish the zombie monster in your graveyard to special summon this card, but it returns to the bottom of the deck when it leaves the field. We're playing 1 Glow Up Bloom to send, and 1 Eldritch for Delta of Invitation. That's right, it's a Delta deck. When this card is activated, you can send a level 5 or higher zombie from your deck to the graveyard, and if a zombie monster is on the field, you can special summon a Delta token. If a monster is added from the graveyard to the hand while this card is in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand, perfect for pairing with Eldritch. We are playing 3 copies of Ectoplasmic Fortification, which, if you control no monsters, can add a level 6 zombie monster or Call of the Forgotten from your deck to your hand, or zombie monsters you control gain 400 attack, then you draw cards equal to the number of Call of the Haunted you control. 2 copies of Vortex of Time. When your opponent activates a normal or quick play spell or effect or a monster effect, while you control a zombie monster and Call of the Haunted, your opponent tosses a coin. The activated effect becomes either you must banish all monsters you control, good, or your opponent must banish 1 monster they control. Still okay because it's replacing a better effect. Finally, we're playing 1 copy of Call of the Forgotten. The field spell, when activated, can set up to 3 Call of the Haunted from your deck or graveyard. If you do until the end of your opponent's turn, you are locked except for zombies or monsters from the graveyard. So you are locked from the graveyard the turn you activate Pumpking, but you are not locked from the graveyard under Call. You can summon back floodgates, basically. Anyway, once per turn, if you activate Call of the Haunted, you can target a monster your opponent controls, send it to the graveyard, 1 of these per turn. Now, we are only playing 2 Call of the Haunted because it is asked to draw. For non-engine, we're on 3 copies of Nibiru, 3 copies of Fuelos, 3 copies of Ash Blossom, 3 copies of Ghost Bell, a Call by the Grave, and triple infinite impermanence. I should mention we should probably be on Fallen and the Virtuous, but I'm not. In the extra, we've got a Flying Mary for the Delta of Invitation combo, Vampire Sucker, which will draw you a bunch of cards on your turn, SP Little Knight, Vampire Fascinator for laddering, Yuki-Oni the Absolute Zero Mayakashi, which is a bunch of negates and part of your end board, 2 Pumpking the Great Ghost King, which, while you control Call of the Haunted, prevents your opponent from targeting zombie monsters you control with monster effects, and if Special Summon can add a Call of the Haunted or a card that mentions it from your deck to your hand, you can detach a material from this card, target 2 cards on the field, return them to the hand. That's right, for some reason it's also Madolce Tiramisu. We've got Dampier Vampire Sheridan, a 6 that is semi-flexible. The Undying Legion, which once per turn allows you to Xyz summon itself using a rank 6 zombie Xyz you control, and then during your opponent's main phase you can detach 2 materials from this card, or 1 if all the materials are Xyz. Target an attack position, monster your opponent controls, or a monster in the graveyard, and attach it to this card. 1 Verudrus, because you can make 10s. 1 Mercurium the Living Quicksilver, which if Xyz summoned can attach a monster from your deck to this card as material. Invader of Darkness, Christia, Spell Canceller, the End of Anubis. While this card has material, your opponent can activate the effects of monsters in their graveyard with the same attribute as a monster in your graveyard. During the end phase, detach a material from this card or take 1,000. We've got a Typhon, we've got a Sky Thunder, we've got a Fallen Angel for the Delta setup, and an Eldritch the Mad Golden Lord for the Fallen Angel. In the side, we've got 3 Lava Golem, 3 Pankratops, 2 Droll Lockbird, 3 evenly matched, and then a bunch of bullshit. Invader of Darkness, Archlord Christia, End of Anubis, and Spell Canceller. Fun, right? Anyway, let's get into the games. Our first match is up against Elf Note, and I don't care how sexy you make the starters, you're not going to convince me that Medius is anything other than an industry plant. We're going first, and our opponent has a couple of pieces of interaction, so let's see how we deal with them. We'll begin with a copy of Delta of Invitation, sending Eldritch. They will Ash our Snakehair, so we normal summon the Glow Up Bloom, summon a token to our side of the field, courtesy of Delta, then activate Eldritch in Graveyard into a Ghost Bell. No big deal, that probably means the shields are down. So let's link off for a Vampire Sucker, trigger the effect of the Glow Up Bloom, grab a Pumpkin, activate its effect to set a Call of the Haunted. This Call of the Haunted will not only trigger the effect of the Pumpkin, getting us a Changshi the Spirit Owl, it will also trigger the effect of the Vampire Sucker, which means we can draw a card in the process. We grab an Imperm, then activate the effect of the Changshi the Spirit Owl to send a copy of Army of the Haunted on our way to Pumpkin the Great Ghost King. We'll activate its effect for the field spell, then activate Army of the Haunted in the graveyard to bring itself back. We can use the effect of our Pumpkin to return the Call of the Haunted on our way to the Undying Legion and Vampire Fascinator. Our opponent used a zombie, so let's get that and end on a Yuki-Onna, which is a couple of negates, before setting to activating Call of the Forgotten for the last Haunted and passing turn. Our opponent will draw for turn, it's a Veiler, a little too late, and go for Lucina. We'll begin with Call of the Haunted, bringing back this copy of Sucker, and negating, courtesy of Yuki-Onna, the Lucina. We'll go for Medius next. We will chain Call of the Haunted, that will bring back our copy of Snakehair as they summon a Power Patron from deck. From here, we got a big chain. We'll go for the effect of Sucker and the effect of Yuki-Onna and the effect of Snakehair and Call the Forgotten to pop the Power Patron, which they will chain, will Undying Legion, functionally to blanket by taking Medius the Pure. At point of resolution, that's going to the yard, and we will just go ahead and draw. They'll pass turn, and we should have lethal here. We just have to activate the effect of our Army of the Haunted in the graveyard, go to the battle phase, draw a card off the Vampire Sucker, and get in for well over 8,000 points of damage. So that's how the deck performs on the play, but what does it do on the draw? Well, our opponent for game 2 is on Fur Hire Canine, a really cool build of the deck that I like a lot. They're going to go first to begin with a copy of Fossil Dig. Afterwards, they'll go for Rex Freight Fur Hire, use its effect to go ahead and grab the Flying Furtress, and activate its effect in order to grab a copy of the Rafal, which they will send to the yard. Down comes Beat, they'll trigger the effect of the Rex to bring back the Rafal, and then of course they can trigger the effect of both Beat and Rafal. We will negate the Beat and hope that that's enough, but admittedly it probably won't be. A Chaotic Elements off the top, boy, that's miserable. That's going to grab them a Yokel, which they can then activate in order to summon both the Yokel and the Naroi, then Yokel effect in order to grab a Lantern. From here, they can overlay for a Ripper, activate the Ripper effect, and grab from deck to hand a copy of a Case for Canine, which they will activate. That grabs them a Lupus, and then they'll Lantern next, targeting the Naroi, and activating the Naroi, sending the Case to look at our grip. It's at this point they probably realize we're playing a bunch of pumpkins. They're going to go for Keel effect here. That will set a Mayhem for hire on their way to Folgo. Folgo is going to summon from deck a copy of Dompa, and then afterwards they'll set one and pass with the Lupus and the Izuna and the Ash in hand. We'll begin with Stare. That is Ripperable, so they will do it. We will go for the Pumpkin Man next, setting the other Call of the Haunted. We'll activate Call of the Haunted, targeting the Pumpkin Man. They will forced release, which unfortunately pops our Call of the Haunted and prevents us from bringing him back. At point of resolution, they'll draw a card. We'll normal the Samurai Skull and send a copy of Eldritch to the graveyard. We'll set a card and try to bring back the Eldritch, but it'll be met with an Izuna and a Lupus, which means that though we do get the Eldritch at point of resolution, they can activate both Izuna and Lupus in order to make a copy of Valen. They will send a copy of Naroi on our way to Fallen Angel. They'll activate the Valen to tuck our Fallen Angel and Mayhem in order to bring back Rafal. Rafal will trigger, Dompa will trigger. They will pop our Samurai Skull, which means we get to trigger it at least. We'll do that, and unfortunately they will Ash Blossom, closing the door once and for all. Okay. So that's the deck. Pretty good on the play, pretty bad on the draw, pre-board. It's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's on what else but branded Draco Tail, and we are going first at least. We'll begin with a copy of Ectoplasmic Fortification to grab a copy of the Pumpkin King. We'll go Delta of Invitation here to send a copy of Eldritch, then normal summon a Samurai Skull. That's going to send a copy of Army of the Haunted. We'll use the effect of the Delta of Invitation for a token, and then Eldritch. They will Fuwalos here, and I mean, we could stop, but I think it's probably a bad idea. Let's get out the Pumpkin and cycle back the Delta. We'll grab a copy of Snake Hair from deck, give them 1 Pumpkin Great Ghost for a second, and then we'll go ahead and grab Call of the Forgotten. That permits us to set 2 copies of Call of the Haunted, which is fine. We'll pass turn here into like a 7-card hand. They're going to begin with the Fallen of the Virtuous on our Great Ghost King, which is miserable, and followed up with a Rahu. We'll activate the effect of Call of the Haunted. They will Ghost Bell. We will Call of the Haunted, which means we do get back the Stare of the Snake Hair, but they do get to perform a fusion summon. Down comes Arthalion. They'll go Arthalion 1, Pan 2, Urg 3. We'll go Snake Hair 4, targeting the Arthalion so they don't get it back, but they can set a copy of Ketu as well as a copy of Horn, so this might be over anyways. After that, they're going to go for an Incredible Ecclesia, and of course, Ecclesia does turn into Fallen of the White Dragon. They'll activate its effect in 2 Ecclesias. I'm seeing double. Down comes Abolenitus, the Abyss Dragon, on their way to Ketu into Secretarion. They'll activate the effect of the Arthalion in Graveyard. They will go ahead and negate the effect of our Samurai Skull. And then, of course, they can summon back the Malulu while shuffling back the Ecclesia. That gets rid of everything on our board and puts us down to a meager 1,200 points of life. They will pass turn, and I don't know what we're going to do into a face of Malulu. At least we have the Fuwalos, right? All right, well, let's begin with an Ectoplasmic Fortification. We will activate that, grabbing a Pumpkin. We'll activate Eldritch here. They will chain Sting. That means that we are not going to be able to add it back, but we can Fuwalos after before going for Pumpkin Man, setting a copy of Call of the Haunted, and then Call of the Haunteding it back. They will chain Malulu in order to make a Gulamel. We draw a card of Fuwalos, yeah, right on time, before going for Grave Ghosts as they go for Malulu in chain, negating the Grave Ghost's effect. We get to go for Typhon, but that does less than nothing. They're going to Horn here, chain Gulamel, and that's all she wrote. Ugh, yuck. All right, well, let's take our lethal damage like a champ. So it's time for game 2, and oh, my good friend Spell Canceller in the grip. Oh boy, okay. We'll begin with Delta of Invitation, sending an Eldritch, then we'll activate the effect of our Pumpkin in order to grab a Call of the Haunted. We will Call the Haunted, targeting itself, and summoning it back. We'll activate the effect of the Pumpkin into our opponent's Ash Blossom. Well, we can at least summon a token off of this Delta. We can cycle back the Eldritch and summon it. We'll activate the effect of Delta of Invitation as our opponent goes for an entire hand's worth of Phimina. They will use the Arthalion in order to bounce back, and the Urgula, and the Malulu, and the Frixel, and the Phimina to set up everything they need on the next turn. Here a Sting, a Rahu, a Horn, and of course sending our Call of the Haunted so we lose our Pumpkin. Now we can Eldritch hand effect to send the Arthalion and tribute summon the Spell Canceller, but a little less exciting when our opponent has the out for it. Horn here can be ashed, so that's just going to have to be good enough, but because they have the Phimina, we know it isn't. They can go into another Arthalion, they're going to bounce the Spell Canceller, trigger the Malulu. Even if they did bounce it, they get to negate it. Oh my god. Back comes the other Arthalion. From here, we can at least Delta of Invitation, but they say, no, you know, you're not even getting that. Sting you into a Rahu, into a Fusion Summon that will win them the game. Lucius, Phimina triggering here to set a copy of Draco Tail, Horn, and Ketu. Okay, let's wrap this up. So we're back with the deck, and I've got to say I'm a little disappointed. I just didn't think he'd go bad so fast. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1. The call engine puts up a negate and a warning point, a quick steal plus a send from field. Vortex of Time replaces effects and can wipe your opponent's board, so it functionally negates a card and is great insulation. The short of it is the gameplay loop is good. It is strong enough in the current format. 2, the engine is pretty small. You can play a lot of non-engine or sub-engines. We're playing Eldritch, and out of the board, you could theoretically play a Wandering Titan as well, but you can make sure you are dedicating space to beat Nibiru. You can play more extenders like a classic zombie list, etc. And 3, Mercurium can be easily made with the Eldritch engine, and when comboed with Call of the Haunted, it can summon back any Floodgate monster from the graveyard, which gives you a frustrating, if not powerful, sideboard option. And the cons. 1, the combo kind of revolves around Pumpkin resolving. It has a choke point in ways that modern decks really don't. Any spell trap destruction or Bell or Graveyard Hate just removes a huge amount of consistency in bodies. You can still build a lower ceiling board, but it's just Snake Hair, and it's very breakable by most decks. 2, the deck kind of struggles to go second. Vortex of Time resolving can win you the game going second, but you have to flip the coin right, and getting to that point against a lot of decks is hard, so a lot of your sideboard should probably be breakers. And 3, Shifters in the format. Kills the deck dead immediately. All in all, I don't think this reanimated the zombie playstyle, but I do think it's interesting enough to tinker with at locals. I will say, it's going to go crazy in Genesis. So that's that. Thanks so much for watching. These videos are made possible by, and occasionally suggested by, my patrons, some of whom have handed me a lump sum in order to be mentioned at the end of this video. Those people are Absolutely Fran, Elena Tincher, Allison Elliott, Ally, APK Pearly Tier 0, Brett Henry, Broski TCG, Cap, Cool Name, Damon O'Neill, Dark Rebel XYZ, DJ Elefante, El Gravo, Emiliano Deverio, NB Adams, Fabrizio Petroli, Galactic Joey, Hergalicious, Jackie Z, James Place, JP, Cole Offline, Legal Rights, Lucas Rosas, Luis Hernandez, Master Key 090, Matthew M. Derezo, MBT Hablando en Español, MBT Play Medolce, Mike Carlotti, N54 Lionheart, Nacho, Pombo, Pyramid Artisan Field Cloths, TCG Accessories, Rancer My Thing, Rohan Doge, Rose Lapine, Serpentax, Shifter.mp8, Sly Ninja 43, Troy Says By Erasure is Gay, Who's Nick, Yuki Kazami, and Zircon Sun. Couldn't have done it without you.